Hello, this is RitualNeo. I've decided to start a tutorial series where I show people how to set up characters for LIV and Beat Saber. LIV also works with other games besides Beat Saber, but of course this is, essentially a Beat Saber avatar tutorial with LIV. So let's get started. I'm going to be using Nukude's Protogen. So thank you, Nukude, for making this model. It is not a free avatar, but the steps that I go through work with a wide variety of humanoid Vrchat characters, and I do plan on doing more tutorials in the future. And if you have any questions about some quirks that are unique to your avatar, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. I'll also be linking this in the description, as well as other resources you will need. Some things you will need are Unity 2018.4.11f1. You can also use Unity 2018.1.16f1, and I will link both of those in the description. I will be using 2018.4.11. Mainly, you cannot use literally the Vrchat version of Unity, which is 2018.4.20f1. If you use that version of Unity, you will run into a problem where the shaders don't work correctly, basically, inside of LIV. So I've already unpacked my Unity project package here, which is something I will be linking in the description from LIV. And this is also very similar to the package that the Beat Saber avatar guide uses. The .avatar format is essentially the same for the avatar mod as it is for LIV, but when you set up the character for LIV, there's a lot of extra steps that you don't have to go through with. It's actually a lot faster, and I'm going to be showing that right now. So let's find this on my desktop. Right here, Avatar's Unity project. You might get this message. That's perfectly fine. Now you'll see that we have no character here. There's no scenes or anything. That's to be expected. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and you're going to want to set Dynamic Bones and Dynamic Bone Colliders to a very high number. This is due to the way that Dynamic Bone scripts are handled by LIV, but it is getting fixed in the next version. But let's just get it taken care of right now. And then you're going to need to go to Edit, Project Settings, Player, right here, scroll down, make sure that Scripting Runtime Version is set to .NET 4x equivalent. If it's not, you need to set this, and then after you set it, you need to re-import the customavatar.dll. So I'm just going to do that for you guys to be thorough. Okay. Now we can import the Protogen character. So Nukude's Protogen character comes with a Unity package, and we can just import it like this. Cool. Now this part is really important. Nukude's Vrchat character does not come with Dynamic Bone scripts, but a lot of people's Vrchat characters, if you have a Unity package, it will come with a Dynamic Bone script. Do not import a Dynamic Bone script that comes with the character. You have to use the one that comes with the template project. If you have another script in your project, that script will not work, and having it in the project can make things confusing. So just don't have another Dynamic Bone script in your project. You only want to use the one that comes with the template project that I will link in the description. Okay, we're going to import this. While that's happening, I'm going to get my shaders right here. This is the latest public version of Poiyomi toon, and this is the shader we're going to use for this project. So let's import that as well. All of it. You might have your own shaders, that's fine, but for this I'm using Poiyomi toon 5.5. the non-Patreon version. It's just the free version of Poiyomi toon, and I'm gonna link that in the description as well. I'll link directly to their Discord rather. Cool. Now it's gonna ask you, it's gonna tell you to install the VRC SDK. If your custom avatar package comes with Vrchat components, you don't need to import them. And if there are components on your character like the avatar descriptor and the pipeline and all that stuff, you can just remove them. So now I'm gonna go here, and the scene for the Protogen is here. This is the default scene. Now they imported magenta because the shaders that they use by default are not in this project, but that's okay because we're gonna assign our own shaders. And any leftover components from incompatible dynamic bone scripts or Vrchat components, just remove them. Alright, we're gonna go to Poiyomi, toon, advanced, cutout, and we're just gonna do that for every single one. Okay, cool. And as long as we're here, we're gonna do the lighting and emissions and shadows. So go to open up each material right here, then go to special effects. And notice if there's an emission map, you want to turn on this emission. And give it a really modest number. You can change this number later on, but it's better to start small. The way that emissions will appear in LIV is a little different than how you might be used to them looking in Vrchat. The extra screens don't really get used in LIV. You don't really need to do that as much. This one doesn't have an emission map. Point 1. No emission map on the parts, and then the body. I think that the body doesn't have an emission map, but check. Yep, no emission map. Okay, cool. Now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to start from the beginning. This part's really important because if you don't do this right, it can appear a little bit washed out in LIV, or kind of like too bright. So we're going to go to lighting, lights and shadow, and we're going to change the shadows to shadow strength to 0.75. And you can mess with these values if you want to later on after seeing kind of the result. But additive intensity is already 1. That was another thing. You want this to be 1. You can mess with the lighting ramp to make the shadows a little less intense in LIV, but if you don't have the shadows amped up a little bit, it kind of just looks like it's not really lit correctly at all. It kind of depends on whatever shader and what avatar and how toony you want it to look and stuff. But it's not like you have world lighting like in Vrchat worlds. You have to think about the lighting, how it'll be in LIV, which is a little different. So I'm just going to do that for all the other little materials here. Oops. Almost done. Also, I will be timestamping various different parts of the tutorial in case you are an extra smart, super duper cool person and you know most of it, but maybe you have some questions or you're stuck at one particular thing. I'm going to be trying to label and timestamp as much of this video as possible. Okay, I think I got it all. One more thing we should do with the shaders is that the screens and the face, we want to make sure they have just a little bit more emission actually. Especially the face, because otherwise it kind of comes out a little dark, especially with the lighting changes that we made. I'd actually suggest, instead of using the emission special effect, just use a regular emission, or the basic emission, because there isn't an emission map. So yeah, just a little emission like that will really help with that, help the face look correct in an LIV. So that's it for materials and textures. Obviously, if you have more sophisticated shaders, or maybe you have some more complicated emission maps, or you have Poiyomi Pro or whatever, you can mess around with this more, but this is a very basic setup. Now we need to do the dynamic bones. You will always have to do the dynamic bones from scratch. If there are dynamic bones on your character that are like a older script or a different script than the project template comes with, that means you missed what I said earlier, which is you cannot import dynamic bones onto the project, otherwise you will run into problems. So just make sure that the only dynamic bones in your project are the ones that come from this custom avatar script right here. You see this customavatar.dll, it expands with an avatar descriptor, a bunch of things you won't use, but mainly the dynamic bones and dynamic bone colliders are the most important ones. You have to use those scripts or else they will not work. So let's go to the armature. You can see where the scripts would have been, but I don't have them in this project. So we're just going to remove those. And we're going to put in our own dynamic bone scripts. You need a few of them. One for the ears, one for the hair, and then they have like the sort of their front chest fluff and their back of the head fluff, and then obviously one for the tail. So let's go. You want to just type in hair here. And obviously putting dynamic bones on the character is optional, but I think it helps make the character look more dynamic. So these are really simple values. Obviously you can experiment with the values and try a wide variety of values. Just make sure that when you choose the front fluff, you're choosing the root. And the same for the back. So I got hair. We can actually copy these values and then paste them. Just make sure you have the correct root selected. Okay, then we'll do two more. The tail. And the ears. Now for these, I've actually worked out some values that are a little bit more particular, and I will walk you guys through those values right now. And like I said, feel free to experiment, but I found these values to look pretty good. And we're also going to use the distribution curve to be a little bit more particular. Oh, hold on. Got my ears and my tail values mixed up. Zero 0.293, 0.345, 0.677, 0.28. Okay. And then for the ears, you can also add a radius and a dynamic collider. Usually you have to make this number really small, otherwise the circles are just ginormous, so big that you can't even see them sometimes. There they are. And for this one, I just do the normal line. This is the same as doing like nothing. And then for the next one, I like to curve it down, so I put a normal line, and then I drag this line down to about 50. See the 50 over, the 0.5 rather, not 50, but 0.5. And then I do the same thing on the next one. And then I just leave the inert and radius the same. And to finish with the dynamic bones, we're going to want to add colliders to the hands. So just go to wrist L, add a dynamic bone collider. And the yellow orb is where it will collide with the orbs that we put in the ears earlier, the radius. Set direction to Y, and then give this a little number 2. That way you have a nice generous space where where the character can touch their ears. And then we just copy this component and select wrist R and paste component as new, and then now the right wrist has it too. Sweet. Finally, we have to add those colliders to the ears. So we're going to go back to the armature, scroll down to ears, or actually scroll up to ears, radius, colliders, set the size to 2, then hit enter, and then click the little dot on the far right and put in the wrist L and the wrist R. Cool. Now obviously this is extra, but I think it's a cool thing you can do with the character. Cool. And then if you want to playtest the dynamic bones, you can press the play button and then click on scene like this, so we go back to here. And I like to click on the little tool up here that lets me spin the avatar. You look at the under game object and component. So I grab it at the root and ooh, the ears move, and so does the tail and the fluff. The fluff doesn't move very much, but it's there. Very cool. And then everything you did while the play button was on will be undone when you unhit the hit when you reverse the play mode. Okay, next we need to make some empty objects. So create empty. And then what you have to do is you have to put the whole, the root of the whole character basically underneath the new empty object you just made. And then you can name this whatever you want. We're just going to call it Proto Avatar. Now you have to make a few more empty objects. And then this part is really important. These are case sensitive. Okay, so you need to write rename head with a capital H, rename body with a capital B, rename right hand with a capital R and a capital H, rename left hand with a capital L and a capital H. Now, in the normal version, if you have made an avatar for Beat Saber before, normally you'd have to actually assign targets to these and like put them carefully on the character's body. But for LIV, the way LIV works is it just uses the structure of the character in a more, I guess, a more direct way. So you don't actually have to do anything else besides have these named and in existence. They just need they're case sensitive and they just have to be there. Now, finally, we need to add a component called, oh, actually, there's one more thing we should do. Make sure your character is scaled to 1. Some Vrchat characters, they come with a scene that scales them not to something other than 1. So the LIV already will scale you and your character in the game automatically if you set it up that way, which is the default setting. So they don't need to be scaled in Unity, I think. Pretty sure. I haven't needed to scale a character in Unity since I started using LIV. So I just make it 1, keep things simple. Now we need to add something called the avatar descriptor. And you're gonna put in it the avatar name. So we're just gonna say Neo's tutorial avatar. And the author name, we'll say it's Nukud. You can optionally put in a picture for when you are selecting the avatar in LIV, it'll show that picture, but that's entirely optional and we don't really need to do it. Most of the time, your audience will never see that picture, so I don't usually use it. If you are doing avatars as like a commission work, maybe as like a level of professionalism, you might want to put their icon in there or something. Besides that, the cover image is not super important. And I think that's it. One thing you want to double check, I'm pretty sure we did this, but one thing I want to double check is project settings, script execution order. You want to set, have both these. You need, if you do not set these numbers to a super high value, then the dynamic bones may not work correctly. And to reiterate, this is something that LIV is aware of and they're fixing, and they've already fixed it in the beta, but everything I'm doing this video on is in the non-beta build. Just hit apply. Then you should have a window called Avatar Exporter. Now, some people run into a problem where this does not appear as an option. And if that happens, it means you need to double check in project settings that you're on .NET.4x, and it also means you might need to re-import the customavatar.dll. If it doesn't look like a jigsaw piece like this, it means something isn't quite right. You're not using the correct version of Unity, or you need to set .NET to 4x, or you need to re-import it, or all 3 of those. So if it looks like a jigsaw, the window Avatar Exporter will probably appear for you, and it can also be in this tab. And notice that the information is already filled out here. It's because it counts on the avatar descriptor. It's the same thing. Now this avatar name, you want to remember this because this is the name that the avatar will have when you're looking for it in VR when you're using LIV. So that name, if we export the avatar, is going to be, obviously by default, it's going to be the same, but if I were to say type something else here, like this, something else, and then I import that in LIV, the internal name is still going to be what it says here under avatar name. So I recommend keeping those the same. Don't get confused. And then the default location will be in the project, but I recommend putting them on your desktop. So just save it to desktop. Maybe don't use any special characters just in case. And it'll start doing some loading stuff. Usually it won't take long. Cool. It's not a complicated character. These usually don't take a big long time. Okay, so now that we've exported the avatar, now is a good time to turn on your VR, and if you have HTC Vive full body trackers and controllers and all that stuff, go ahead and turn all that stuff on, and then we're gonna do something. Double check our trackers here, because this is a little minor thing. You want to go to manage Vive trackers, and a lot of people don't have to do this, but I like to be thorough. So manage Vive trackers. If you set your trackers, like especially right foot, waist, and left foot individually, this can help you avoid some problems in LIV or some games down the line. A lot of people don't have to do this, it just works without doing that, so you can consider this an extra step. But if you're having trouble with the trackers kind of recognizing where they're being placed and stuff, I would give them a role manually. So now is a good time to do that, especially if you're turning them on one by one. Now is the easiest time. After you've done that, go ahead and launch the compositor. And we're going to make a new camera. We're going to call it an avatar camera. And the default settings for the camera should be fine. You can see that my default avatar here is going a little crazy because I'm wearing my trackers right now. He's freaking out. And then we're going to take the avatar from our desktop, Neo's tutorial avatar, and we're going to put it inside of this window right here. Boop. Successfully imported avatar. All right, now I'm going to switch to my VR view for you guys. All right, for this part, you're going to want to stand in the middle of your play space. You have HTC Vive trackers on. Make sure they're all on and activated. Point directly at the LIV thing while looking at it, and after a second, it will pull up the menu. Find your avatar. There it is. Wow. So cool. Then you're going to want to stand right in the middle of the space. Hit calibrate. There'll be little footprint things. Sometimes for some characters I lean forward a little bit to compensate for the character. It kind of depends on your character. It's very similar to full body tracking in Vrchat. And hit the triggers. Oh, actually, hold on. If you have full body tracking, you want to do the same thing, but turn on the trackers you're using, obviously. And then if you change those trackers, you're going to want to calibrate. Same thing I just did. Oop. Very cool. Okay, save. Then your camera is down there. This might be tricky, but you want to point at the inner circle of the camera and click and drag it up. And then you want to go to Viewfinder and enable that camera viewfinder. Hello. And I suggest putting it out about 2 meters behind you, like this. And then you can change the field of view. I use something around 65 usually, but a lot of people use a lower number. Generally speaking, I think most people use between 60 and 75. 75 being kind of a lot. It depends on the game you're playing and how big your character is and what part of the game you want to focus on. And then this is just a selfie camera. There's also a third-person camera that will follow behind you with your head. So it's always behind you. LIV is really cool because it automatically detects Beat Saber, so you can actually just go to library and hit Beat Saber. If for some reason that doesn't work, if it's not putting you in Beat Saber, you can look at the app manually on your desktop, go to capture, auto, and then right here there should be Beat Saber because it is a LIV supported game, LIV enabled game rather. You can also launch Beat Saber from this menu. That's not necessary, but you can do it, and sometimes I do that. Whatever is more convenient, it works the same either way. So you can now see that in the LIV output, my character is here. If I switch my VR view off and my desktop view off, you this. In the bottom right corner is my first person capture of the game. That's the literal Beat Saber process. I put it on top of the LIV output in OBS. So if you can imagine, like, you have LIV at the bottom and then the actual capture of the actual game, its first person perspective, is on top of that. And then that way people can see my character and they can see what my first person looks like. Isn't that cool? Wow. So now I'm going to do a little demonstration with the character. I'm just going to play something from the OST because it's accessible and copyright. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like a heart attack. Can't even talk to your friends who used to be my friends, 'cause I'm a rebellious. Can't even go to
Darn, I missed 2. Sorry, no full combo, but hopefully that shows off the avatar pretty well. Alright, that's it. Yeah, I will be posting as many timestamps and useful resources in the description that I can, and obviously credit to everyone involved. LIV and Avatar model-wise, especially Nukud who made the model. Whew. If you like VR content and avatars and all that stuff, and you want to see more tutorials or more VR videos or just other stuff, consider subscribing! Thanks. Bye-bye.